You are standing in the deepest corridor of the forbidden city, where light dares not linger. The air is thick with incense and secrets. The yellow walls are not symbols of glory, they are warning signs, the color of a cage. A eunuch's shadow glides ahead of you, leading you toward the chamber you will never truly leave. Your bare feet press against cold, polished stone that has felt the steps of 1,000 women before you, women whose names have been erased. You are about to become one of them. He stops. Turns. His eyes are sharp, but hollow, the eyes of a man who has seen beauty destroyed and power fed like meat to a beast. His voice is a whisper that feels like a knife. What you are about to learn is not custom. It is survival. These are the rules that will keep you alive in the Son of Heaven's bed, or ensure you vanish without a trace. You think you understand luxury. You think this palace is a world of silks, perfumes, and soft laughter. But the truth is far more brutal, and far more precise. Every movement here is choreographed to protect the emperor from the very women he possesses. Every word you speak, every glance you dare, is calculated to maintain an illusion, that you are nothing more than an object in his orbit, never a threat. The first rule is absolute, you will never turn your back to him. Not while walking. Not while undressing. Not while lying beneath him. You will learn to move like water, gliding sideways, pivoting in perfect arcs, your eyes never leaving the center of power. This is not respect, it is paranoia. He knows death can come from anywhere, even the hands that touch him in the dark. You begin to feel it, the slow invasion of control, the rewriting of your instincts. Soon, you will not move unless it serves him. Soon, you will not breathe without permission. And once these rules take hold of your mind, there will be no part of you left untouched. This is the beginning of your descent. And once you step through that chamber door, you will not return the same. The eunuch leans closer, the scent of camphor heavy on his breath. You are no longer you, he says, as if carving the words into your skull. You are property. A vessel. A shadow with a pulse. From this moment on, your own name is a forbidden luxury. In the emperor's presence, there is no I, no me. You will speak only in the third person, this unworthy one, this lowly concubine, this slave of the Son of Heaven. At first, it feels strange. Awkward. Like a play you are pretending to act in. But soon, the pretense will end. The mind adapts to survive. Within weeks, you will hear yourself speaking in that submissive grammar even when you are alone. Within months, you will think in it. The I, the voice that narrates your own life, will dissolve. What remains is not a person. It is a function. This is how control becomes permanent. It's not the walls that keep you here, it's the language that cages you from the inside. Every word you speak is a surrender. Every surrender is a reprogramming. And you will be reprogrammed until you can no longer remember what it was like to belong to yourself. Watch the older concubines. You'll see it in their posture, the lowered head, the softened shoulders, the vacant eyes that never meet yours for too long. They have become fluent in disappearance. Their beauty remains, but the fire is gone. It was extinguished in the quiet hours, rule by rule, night after night. The emperor prefers it this way. A woman who no longer claims, I can never truly rebel. A woman who no longer owns her own voice can never speak against him. He can take her body without ever confronting her humanity. And that is the point. This is not about love. It is not even about pleasure. It is about the machinery of power, the cold, methodical engineering of submission. The eunuch's voice softens, almost pitying. Forget yourself, he says. Or you will not survive. You feel it then, the first crack in your identity. And somewhere deep inside, a small voice screams against the silence. But here, screams don't matter. Only obedience does. The eunuch gestures toward the towering red doors ahead. Before you step inside, his hand stops you, fingers cold against your arm. His tone changes, quieter, sharper, as if speaking this aloud risks punishment even here. Never look into his eyes. Not during greetings. Not during the act. Not even by accident. Your gaze must remain fixed just below his chin, as though you are a servant awaiting orders, never a woman in his presence. You think this is about respect. You are wrong. It is about distance, the deliberate severing of human connection. Eye contact is dangerous. It can ignite curiosity, spark questions, awaken empathy. And empathy is the enemy of control. If he looks into your eyes, he might see too much, the flicker of resistance, the memory of another life, the echo of a soul that refuses to bow. And if you look into his, you might discover the truth the empire cannot afford you to know, that the Son of Heaven is only a man. A man who bleeds. A man who fears. A man who hides behind the myth of divinity like a shield. The rule is simple in wording, but lethal in consequence. Violate it once, and you drop to your knees, forehead pressed to the floor, begging forgiveness for the crime of equality. Violate it again, and your life in the harem ends, not in death, but in something far worse. You will be sent to the quarters of the eunuchs, stripped of status, stripped of beauty's purpose, condemned to live among those who remind you every day that you were once desirable, and now you are forgotten. In this place, silence is safety, and the absence of a gaze is a shield. You will learn to watch him without watching, to measure the slightest shifts in his mood from the angle of his jaw, the tension in his shoulders, the way his breath changes. You will see everything except the truth in his eyes. The eunuch steps back, his role complete. The door opens, revealing the chamber that will become both your stage and your prison. And as you step inside, you feel the weight of the unseen chains tightening around you, one rule at a time. The chamber is warm with candlelight, but the heat doesn't comfort you, it presses down, heavy, almost suffocating. The scent of sandalwood coils through the air, mingling with something sharper, the metallic tang of fear. He sits upon a raised bed draped in gold silk, the dragon emblem of his reign embroidered beneath him. You feel the weight of his gaze, though you cannot meet it. The eunuch's final warning echoes in your mind as he slips away, leaving you alone in the presence of the most powerful man in the empire. Here, there is another rule, one they do not write down, but all women know. You will not make a sound unless commanded. No sighs. No words. No cries. Not even the whisper of your own breath. Your body may be used, but it will never speak for itself. It is not modesty. It is not decorum. It is control. The emperor wants to know that every flicker of your voice, every tremor of sound, belongs to him, summoned when he wills it, silenced when he does not. To cry out unbidden is to admit you have an inner life he cannot control, and that is unacceptable. Some nights, this rule becomes a game, but not the kind that offers pleasure. He may spend hours trying to break you, not with tenderness, but with endurance, with discomfort, with tests designed to force you into betraying yourself. For him, it is not about intimacy, it is about proving his command reaches deeper than flesh. The older concubines have mastered the art of vanishing inside themselves. They breathe shallow, keep their jaws clenched until their tongues bleed, and drift into a mental distance where nothing can touch them. Some succeed. Others break. The ones who break lose more than pride, they lose their voice entirely. Days later, even alone in their quarters, they open their mouths and no sound comes. The physicians call it a mystery. The women know better. It is the echo of silence taking root, the emperor's will engraved into the body. And you realize, standing there beneath his shadow, that every rule is not just a command, it is an incision. And piece by piece, they are cutting you out of yourself. You think pleasure is something that belongs to you, that when the body responds, it does so for your own sake. But here, even that is taken. The fifth rule is cruel in its elegance, the emperor must finish last. Always. Not because he cares for your enjoyment, but because his climax is considered sacred, the seal of heaven itself restoring cosmic order. For you to reach your peak before him would be unthinkable, almost treasonous. It would suggest that mortal desire could outpace the divine. From the first night, you will be taught to master suppression. Your body will learn to betray itself, to halt what is natural, to slow what is instinctive. You will listen for the subtle shifts in his breathing, the faint tension in his muscles, reading the emperor like a map so you can hold yourself back until the exact moment allowed. Some concubines distract themselves with mental rituals, reciting ancient poems in their heads, counting backwards from 100, even envisioning cold, dark places to dim the fire inside. Others detach completely, floating somewhere far above the moment, watching their own body move like a stranger's. But this suppression comes at a cost. In denying yourself again and again, you begin to lose the ability to feel at all. The body forgets what it once knew. You become not a participant, but an instrument, tuned only for his song, silent when not played. The emperor believes this rule proves his supremacy. In truth, it reveals his fear, the fear that a woman's pleasure might exist independently of him, that she might know a joy he did not create. And so you learn to hide even that from him. Your desire becomes your last secret, a rebellion so small it cannot be seen. But here, even secrets are dangerous. If he suspects, he will take it from you, as he has taken everything else. By the end, you no longer wonder if you will disobey. You wonder if you even remember how. The act ends, but the power does not. When the emperor withdraws, his world continues without pause. He may rise, dress, call for wine, or summon another woman as if you were no more than an item in his collection. But you are not permitted to move. Not an inch. Not until he gives permission. This is the sixth rule, and it is as much a ritual as it is a punishment. You remain in the position he left you, sometimes for minutes, sometimes for hours. Your body aches. Sweat cools against your skin. Muscles tremble with the strain of holding still. Yet you must not shift for comfort, must not clean yourself, must not speak. It is a performance of submission, but one meant for an audience of one, him. By keeping you frozen in that moment, he ensures the imbalance lingers long after the act is done. It is a reminder that he is free while you are bound, that his desire defines the beginning and the end of every movement you make. You try not to think of time. The minutes stretch like years in this silence. Every breath feels louder than it should, every beat of your heart a trespass. You wonder if he even remembers you are still there, or if your stillness has already made you invisible. The older concubines speak of these moments in hushed tones. They say the stillness is where the real breaking happens. Not in the touch, not in the commands, but in the endless waiting, when you are forced to confront the truth that you no longer control even the smallest gesture of your own body. When at last he grants release, a word, a nod, it is not freedom you feel. It is something colder. You rise not because you chose to, but because his will allowed it. And that knowledge stays with you, sinking into your bones. Every rule is a chain. But this one tightens even when the night is over. Here, even the possibility of life is not your own. The seventh rule concerns pregnancy, a rule whispered among the concubines with equal parts dread and calculation. If you suspect you might be carrying the emperor's child, you must report it immediately, but not to him. You tell the head eunuch first. Always. It doesn't matter if you are sure. Suspicion is enough. A missed cycle. A sudden fatigue. A strange craving. You must speak it, because failing to report it is a crime punishable by death. But reporting falsely carries its own cruelty, a public beating, leaving scars that never fade. The result is a constant state of hypervigilance. You will monitor your body like a spy tracks an enemy, every change in appetite, every fluctuation of mood, every ache or flutter. The body becomes a source of fear, not pride. And if the pregnancy is confirmed, the chains tighten further. You will be moved immediately, cut off from the other women. Not for your protection, though that is what they will say, but for the protection of the potential heir you carry. Guards will watch you day and night. Your meals will be controlled. Every movement will be accounted for. The truth is simple, the emperor does not own you. He owns what grows inside you. You are no longer seen as a woman, but as a vessel, valuable only so long as you remain intact. Some women cling to the hope that giving birth to a son will raise their standing, even secure their survival. Others know better. In the labyrinth of palace politics, a child is not a blessing, it is a weapon. A prince can elevate you, or mark you for destruction if his existence threatens someone more powerful. And so pregnancy becomes another battlefield in the war for survival, one where your own flesh and blood can be used against you. You begin to understand, here, nothing, not your name, not your voice, not your pleasure, not even the life you might create, belongs to you. The eighth rule is not written on any scroll, yet it governs every breath you take in the harem. It is the emperor's game of jealousy. A game designed to keep you competing, mistrusting, and silently destroying one another so no united front can ever rise against him. It begins subtly. One day, you are summoned to the emperor's chambers twice in a week. The other women notice. The next day, another concubine is summoned 3 times in a row, and you are ignored entirely. Soon, whispers grow like mold in the damp corners of the palace, she must be his favorite now. The emperor encourages these whispers. He will deliberately show small favors, a silk scarf to one woman, a rare sweet to another, knowing each gift will ignite envy in dozens of others. Sometimes he will lavish attention on a woman he secretly despises, just to provoke the rest into paranoia. The competition becomes vicious. A sidelong glance can be misread as an insult. A compliment can be poisoned with hidden meaning. Every woman learns that trust is dangerous, because the friend you share a secret with today may use it against you tomorrow. Even beauty becomes a weapon. You watch each other's faces for signs of age or fatigue. You note who wears their hair differently, who has been granted a new robe, who has lost weight. You measure yourself constantly against the others, and when you fall short, the shame is unbearable. The emperor doesn't have to punish rebellion when it never begins. He has built a system where you destroy yourself from the inside, where the women themselves become enforcers of his will. And so the harem becomes a hall of mirrors, each reflection warped by suspicion, each alliance doomed by ambition. You are trapped in a chess game where the emperor is the only player, and you, along with everyone you know, are just pieces waiting to be sacrificed. You start to realize the cruel brilliance of it. Here, the prison walls are not stone, they are the hearts of the women beside you. They never told you this rule outright, because to speak it aloud would strip away the emperor's illusion of romance. In the imperial harem, to be loved too much is not a blessing. It is the deadliest curse of all. At first, you think love is your shield. If the emperor favors you above all others, who could harm you? Your chambers overflow with gifts. Poets are summoned to immortalize your beauty in verse. Courtiers bow more deeply when you pass. For a fleeting moment, you believe you've won. But that is when the danger begins. Because when a man who rules an empire gives his heart completely, he also feels the weight of its loss before it ever happens. That fear corrodes his affection, twisting it into something darker: obsession, possession, control. The history of the harem is littered with the ghosts of women who shone too brightly. Some were quietly poisoned by rivals desperate to take their place. Others were exiled to remote palaces under the pretense of protection, never to be seen again. A few were strangled in their sleep, by order of the very man who once swore eternal devotion. Why? Because to love one woman too much is to risk destabilizing the delicate machinery of the court. Jealous ministers fear her influence. Generals whisper about the danger of a ruler distracted by his passions. And the emperor himself, sensing the growing storm, acts first to end it, even if it means destroying the object of his desire. This rule is not written in any law, but but every concubine feels its truth. When the emperor's gaze lingers too long, when his voice softens too often, when his visits become too frequent, it is not time to celebrate. It is time to fear. And so, you learn the strange art of measured affection. You must make him crave you, but never fully have you. You must enchant him, but never consume him. Love in the harem is a performance, and the safest ending to your story is to remain a mystery he never quite solves. Because here, the moment you become his everything, you are already as good as gone. They told the outside world the harem was built for beauty, pleasure, and love. That it was a sanctuary of silk and song, a palace within a palace where the most enchanting women of the empire lived like queens. That was the lie. The truth was colder, and far older, than any court poet dared to write. The harem was not about desire. It was about control. Every woman brought inside was a thread in a vast web the emperor could pull at will. Noble families sent their daughters here not out of honor, but because it bound them to the throne. A concubine was not simply a companion, she was a hostage draped in jewels. Her smiles in public were not for love, but for survival. The harem was also a fortress of silence. Inside those walls, women knew secrets that could have toppled dynasties. They saw the emperor at his most human, and his most monstrous. They overheard plots, betrayals, confessions whispered in the dark. And so, once you entered, you did not leave. Ever. Even if the emperor's love faded. Even if you grew old. You were part of the machinery now. But the final rule, the one no one dared speak, was this: the harem exists not to please the emperor, but to protect him from the world outside. Because outside those walls, alliances could be made and broken in days. Enemies could rise overnight. But inside, the harem was a closed system, every glance, every word, every gesture monitored, recorded, weighed. Here, the emperor was not just ruler, he was God. And gods do not give up their creations. So the gates stayed locked. The silk stayed bright. The music never stopped. And to the world beyond, the women of the harem were beautiful birds in a golden cage. But if you stood close enough to the bars, if you listened past the laughter, you might hear it, the faint sound of wings beating, not in joy, but in desperate, endless flight against walls they would never escape. Because in the imperial harem, freedom was the one luxury even the emperor could not afford to give.